How you doing, y'all? Welcome to Confidence. It's been definitely an interesting week. I'm just going to say that. It's been an interesting week. I've had moments where I've gotten triggered again. I've got an update for you guys. Honestly, I got a story about a client that I want to share, and who knows where this is going to go. But really, I think the focus of this podcast is going to be navigating inconsistent relationships and self-regulation and how important that is, and understanding your own feelings in every single dating situation that you're in, because it really all comes back down to you. But the hard part is too, I feel like, and this is something that I'm navigating right now, is, it's hard not to have expectations. It's hard not to have expectations of what you or how you want the other person to show up. Right? We all have an idea of what we feel love looks like. And so sometimes it's hard to get outside of yourself. It is. It's really difficult. It's really difficult to see the other person's side. It's really difficult to sometimes see this situation from an outside lens. And I do think this is why it's so important to have some external accountability, right? Somebody that you trust, a best friend, a coach, it doesn't matter, therapist. It's always really good to reflect these things, because sometimes there's certain things that you just can't see. And when you're so emotionally tied to the situation, sometimes you lose track of what is. Because reality is a scary place when you care about something. Because if you care about something, inherently, there's going to be a lot of fear to it as well. So now I know I'm talking in generalizations, but let's just get right down to it. Honestly, Chris, he loves a fucking little intro, little cookie. Let's just get right into it. So, okay. Last week, I recorded the podcast, and if you haven't listened to it, I recommend. I was sitting here, right? I had this feeling in my stomach. I was navigating all this self-doubt. I had sent this girl a message after, meeting her the week before. And on the podcast, she hadn't answered me yet. So update, I get off the podcast, and lo and behold, I do have an Instagram message from this girl, right? And she said that I'm going to love her chicken enchiladas. The DM was essentially, I was like, oh, you got to make me some fucking chicken enchiladas, because she was talking about it. And I was like, but I got to take you out first. So I let her know. I'm like, yo, I really enjoyed our time. Like, I would love to see you. I was like, my mom's in town. Let me take you out to sushi next week. And she's like, all right, cool. Wednesday works. I was like, all right, dope. Look at that, right? All this negative, anxious energy for what? For what? It was all good. It was all fine, right? So I go through my week, I'm vibing. I'm thriving. Your boy's in it. You know what I mean? I'm enjoying my time with my mom. I'm making videos, doing my thing. Tuesday rolls around, and I text her. I was like, hey, these two spots, which one do you prefer? And I was like, let's do 7. And I was like, I could pick you up if you would like. 4 hours goes by. She reaches back out to me, and she was just like, I'm so sorry for the late reply. What'd she say? I don't need to say the whole text, right? Like, it doesn't need to get crazy. But sorry for the late reply. She said, school is killing me. She's like, I have so many exams, this thing, the other thing. She's like, is there another day that you can do, or next week, or maybe like a coffee date? I tend to be more stressed after school. She's like, I'm not really flaky, but just a little stressed and want to enjoy my time with you. And before school, you could see me in my scrubs or something. I don't know. So I responded. I was like, no apology necessary. School comes first. I was like, my first call is not till 1 on Thursday, which was the next day. So if you want to go grab coffee at 10, I'd love that. I love a coffee shop. It'd be a bonus to see you in your nurse costume, which is wild. I was like, simple and a little stressed, adorable. Haven't heard anything since. It's fucking crazy, dog. So what happened, right? It's like, I send that back. I don't hear anything that night. Same thing, triggered. And so it's my triggers, right? It's like, it's my trigger of like, okay, somebody's not answering on the time frame that I want them to. So what happens, right? That feeling of neglect comes, you guys get the whole vibe. So it's not easy. And yeah, so you can get really stuck in overthinking, right? Did I say something weird? I'm like, did I come off feminine? Am I like, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I gay? Like, I'm like, what's going on? Like, what am I doing wrong here? You know, I feel like I'm being honest. I feel like I'm being real. I also feel like I'm being very steady and not too much. And here's the thing too. It's like, it's not a game. You know, I think I'm just being honest. I was being honest. I was, you know, gave her the benefit of the doubt, validated her feelings. You know, maybe I could have gave more space and said, hey, well, if you're really stressed, we could do next week. And so I think that little part of it for me, I do recognize something, because what I realized, right? Because think about this, we're talking about somebody that I met one time and I invite them out, right? They didn't take, she took a long time to respond to the initial DM, but it's not a big deal in the grand scheme, right? And this is what I was trying to say. It's like, sometimes it's not easy to see things for what they are instead of what you expect them to be. Because me personally, I'm a very intentional person. I'm very upfront, right? When I want something, I'm just like, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to talk to you. I'll see you. I'm down. I'll be there. We set a plan. I'm going to show up. That's who I am. Now, you know, what I'm finding about a lot of women, and maybe this is people in general, right? And I'm sure you guys have all experienced this yourself, where I feel like when you're so excited about something and there's all this energy towards it, it can feel a little resisting, you know? Because I feel, I think about it from the other side of things, where sometimes when I have somebody that has that energy and I'm not ready for that, and I just met them, and maybe I'm not on that same wavelength of like, it can feel like a lot, right? It could feel a little overwhelming. And see, this is where it's really fucked, right? This whole idea of like, you know, if they wanted to, they would, versus like, also at the same time, is there a certain pace, right? Is there a way to go slower and navigate these things slower? And so that's what's really hard, right? It kind of sometimes feels like, am I being myself? Do I need to play a game? Right? Do I need to do something outside of myself? How could I have been better in this situation? And I think that's what ends up happening inadvertently, right? It's like somebody doesn't show up the way that we want them to because now she hasn't answered me. And again, I don't know if that's a ghosting situation. It is Thursday, so it's already past the time that I asked her to do something. And it's weird because she apologized for the late reply, but then you didn't reply at all when I gave an alternate time. And you know, whatever, I don't know. Maybe you're stressed with school and like that's okay too. But it's weird, right? It's like there's two sides to the coin. There's like the side of like, if you were to look at them, right? If I was to assume honesty, if I was to assume positive intent from the other person, because I believe genuinely that is how you have to date. You cannot lean into it with negative intentions or feelings or assumptions. And that's something that happens for me, right? So, you know, going back to the whole trigger thing, right? What happens when you're triggered as fuck, right? When somebody doesn't answer me in a reasonable amount of time, in my eyes, what happens to me, right? Hurt. What does hurt then turn into? A little bit of anger, a little bit of like, ooh, you didn't answer me in that amount of time? Fuck this bitch. You know, that's how it feels. Like, all right, cool. She wants to act like that. Fuck all this. You know, and then I see, here's the thing too. It's like, I was reflecting this outside to my friend, and he's like, well, the other thing is too, is like, Chris, you know, you just met this person, right? Sometimes people are not as deep as you are into the situation just yet. And I understand that part. So it's weird, right? It's like this balancing act between like your own expectations of, again, the way that you want things to go or how you want things to be versus how that person views you and where are they, right? Now, here's my thing, right? My whole thing is this. I'm going to look at it, and what I'm trying to do, right, to overcome this sense of insecurity within me, right? This self-doubt, this assumption that people are just out here to fuck me over or not telling me the truth. Because it's very easy to assume that. And honestly, let's be real, it kind of feels like that, right? Especially in a situation now, right? Initially, when it was only like, that night into the day, I was like, oh, maybe she just was busy or whatever, stressed. But now that we're like almost like 2 days past, you apologize for not answering in a reasonable amount of time, but then you didn't answer at all. To me, that kind of feels like bullshit. It feels like bullshit. And I'm sure you guys listening to this probably feel the same way, right? If you were on the outside looking into that interaction, I'm sure you'd probably look at it and say, yeah, that person doesn't really fuck with you like that. Yeah, that person, they're not in it. And who knows, right? Because here's the thing, right? Let's assume positive intent. The other aspect is, I don't know this person. We haven't even gone on an official first whatever thing yet either. So at the end of the day, I think it really comes down to, how can I regulate myself in these moments? Because I don't know if it's a lack of interest. And that's the hard part, is you don't have all the answers, right? You don't know if it's a lack of interest. You don't know if they're not telling the truth. You don't know if they're just stressed, right? So if I was to get outside of myself and get outside of my own feelings for a moment, and so this is something that you can do in your own situation too, is you got to take into account that person as they are and the situation as it is, right? So let's do the situation. The situation is, okay, person met one time, one Instagram DM, had plans. Person mentioned that they're not really flaky and they apologize and they want to do something different. Okay. Seems honest, seems real, right? And for the moment, not too crazy, right? We haven't necessarily met yet. Okay, we're there. Now view the person for what they are, right? If I can look and observe the things that I know about this person that are beyond myself, let me take a peek. This person, to be honest, and I think this is maybe why I'm feeling this a little bit, right? This little bit of I don't know, is I kind of met this person in a little bit of a party setting. I don't know how much is of a party girl, right? I didn't get that super vibe. But I did get the vibe that she sometimes was afraid of being herself. We were having a conversation when I was driving her back to her house the first night, the night I met her. And I was telling her about my work. And I was telling her about being trying to be the most secure version of myself. I was talking to her about not lying. And I was talking to her about I'm the type of person that, I'm going to be honest in all situations, right? If a friend doesn't want to do something or I don't want to do something with a friend, I'm not telling white lies. That's not my vibe. My vibe is complete honesty. And my ultimate goal of my life is to be one-to-one with my inside world matching my outside world, right? I want my inside feelings to match what I say. My inside feelings to match my actions. And so I'm telling her about this, and I told her how I don't lie. And then she turned around and she made this comment. She's like, oh, I lie all the time. Now, it was interesting because I'm like, you're kind of being honest about it. So I was like, I guess there's points for that. So I don't really know, right? It's interesting because sometimes these people are saying these things to you in the moment, which you're like, oh, maybe we are connecting. But then you're hearing certain things, you're like, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of a lack of alignment, but I'm just blinded by the excitement of the moment. So anyways, I drive her home. It felt like good vibes. She doesn't seem like malicious. You know what I mean? And I really don't think that people are deep down. I really don't. I really do not believe that about people. But anyways, I dropped her off. She said, oh, I should see you again. Whatever. Walked her to her door. I kissed her on the cheek, and then she was like, oh, if I didn't put my lip gloss on, I would have kissed you. And then I turned around and I ended up kissing her. And yeah, that was the first interaction. Now, when she tells me this, it's hard, right? Part of me read that and was like, are you saying that? Because it looked very frantic. That text that she sent me, it looked chaotic. It felt chaotic. It looked overthinking. It looked stress. And she said she was stressed. It was like today, maybe another day, maybe next week. I don't really know, you know? And so if I were to look at it for that perspective, maybe there is somebody right now that is stressed out. Maybe there is somebody that when I suggested the next day instead of the next week, maybe it felt overwhelming to tell me no again. I don't really know. So take that into account, right? And so that's what we have to do, right? In that moment. Now, the hard part for me is how am I feeling, right? I sent you this text and I gave you an alternate plan and you don't even answer me at all. What's happening for me? Way different. Right? For her, it might be light. For her, it might be like out of sight, out of mind just because, hey, you know, we're just started talking or, you know, maybe it's not that deep to me right now. And honestly, I truly believe that your energy is real, you know? I think if she was truly invested into this situation, there would be more communication. Again, I can give her the benefit of the doubt, which I'm going to, of course, and I'm going to give everybody the benefit of the doubt because I don't need to operate from a place of fear. You know, it's all love at the end of the day. I truly believe that. So what do I need to do? I need to be able to understand her perspective, her perception, and at the same time, understand my own and get into my own truth and separate those two things. So for me, what am I feeling? I'm triggered. Honestly, this is like probably my deepest trigger is being ghosted. And it's not ghosted because again, I don't know that information yet, right? There's plenty of time. If she wants to reach out and say something, she could. And at that point, I'm going to have to be very honest about how I feel about this. But in this moment, this person's not answering, right? What's happening for me? This is now back to back. I'm feeling this. But what's crazy is when you look outside of this situation, that's not on her, right? She's not a bitch. You know what I mean? She's not, it's not like, you know, so many people, we like look at the other person and be like, oh, it's them. They suck, right? It's their fault. It's like, no, look at yourself, right? Look at yourself in these situations and understand yourself, understand your fears, understand why you feel the way that you do in this situation, because that's way more important. Because this situation, as much as it's shitty for me in the sense of like heaviness and feeling, bro, I'm learning. It's teaching me a lot about myself. It really is. Right? Like, why am I so triggered by this? Why is something as small as a person that I hung out with one time and have some excitement about triggering me to the point that it's derailing my sleep or taking me away from the things that are important to me or taking me off my good energy? For me, that's what really the self-work really is about, is identifying the areas that take you away from your peace. That's what it is. Because all the areas that take you away from your peace are rooted in fear. And all those places that are rooted in fear, if you could identify what the belief is or what the fear is, and you could lean into it and overcome the fear, you become a more grounded person. So that's the ultimate goal for me in this situation. I know I'm focusing a lot on this, you know, feels small, but it's big for me. Because when I look at the rest of my life, oh, happy days. Joy to the world. You know what I mean? Life is good. I'm like a monkey with the symbol. You know what I mean? Like I go to the gym. I'm like, my creativity is on point. My reading, like I haven't been smoking weed. I'm like mildly sober, which is weird. Honestly, by the way, it's really helped a lot. I will say, not smoking weed, I definitely am facing my emotions more head on. And I think that is a major step for me. And I really think I've hit this point where like, I don't think I want to go back to smoking weed every day anymore. I feel like that is probably done for me at this point. Because it was helping me take the edge off of my emotions. And I realized how important it is for me to go through the discomfort. If I don't like allow myself to go through this discomfort and learn and face my fear, I'm just going to keep using distractions or whatever it is to get over it, you know? And I can't keep doing that anymore. I just got to be honest with myself. I got to feel the shit out of it. I got to understand it. And then I got to regulate. Because that's what it is, right? It's about finding calm and peace no matter what's happening around you. Because take it this way. Let's say you were another person. And I'm not saying other people, when something like this happens to them, they would automatically just always be good. But I know other people that have a little bit less fear when it comes to waiting in relationships than I do, that outside looking in, and if they were me, they'd probably feel weird about this, right? Because that is weird, right? You agree to a day. I send you the time. You kind of fumble around and say, oh, not this time, I'm stressed. And then I provide an alternate time and you just don't say anything at all. I don't think there's many people on earth that would enjoy that experience. That's not enjoyable, right? Because it is a triggering experience. Anytime that our ego gets damaged, and when I say ego, it's survival. It's when your view of yourself gets challenged. You know who you really are when you get squeezed. You want to know how secure somebody truly is? See what happens in a tough situation. See what happens when something doesn't go their way. Right? Things get rocky. Commitment happens, right? Think about this. I mean, in this situation, right? She was comfortable maybe responding back to me saying she was down, but until the day came, you don't know how somebody really feels about you. You don't know how somebody truly feels about you until to the day of the date, whether they show up, whether they're present or not. That's the reality. That's a tough reality. Because a lot of the times, a lot of us, the way that we're navigating relationships is like, everybody like wants to be kind to each other, right? Everybody wants to be viewed as a good person. There's nothing wrong with that, right? When people DM me, I reach back out, right? It's very natural, human instinct. But you really don't know how somebody feels about you until it gets serious, until it gets real. And so that's what happened, right? Is like, this day comes, she gets squeezed in the sense of like, all right, are you down or not? Fumbling, no. But then for me too, right? I'm squeezed, right? I have a person that I was excited about, that I had this expectation of being able to see and hang out with, and that's being shattered, right? And what is that trigger about? I understand it's human and it's natural. I'm not denying that. But again, if I'm trying to become the most secure version of myself, the most grounded version of myself, I want to be able to handle these stressful events inside a container of a relationship. That is what's going to make me successful on being a very strong masculine man. In this situation, it sucks. I feel vulnerable, right? I feel weak. I said the word adorable, in the text. I'm like, fucking A, right? You look back and then you start like talking shit to yourself like, yo, you're a bitch. You know what I mean? Like, but the truth is that I got to be firm. I got to trust. I got to regulate. And so what does that look like for me, right? So this moment happens, the time's starting to go by, I don't hear anything. How do I navigate this? How do I regulate? So for me, sometimes in these moments, it's not easy for me to sleep. It's weird. Like during the day, I'm kind of distracted, right? So I think for a lot of people, the moments of regulation that are probably the most important is probably at that time when you are alone. Because for most people, that is the hardest time to actually be safe. Right? When you're at work, you're distracted. When you're with friends or family or people, you're distracted, right? It's a little bit easier to just navigate your day. So for me, this is my technique on regulating myself. And I did this last night and I felt better. Now, did I extremely get over it like immediately and I was done? No, I don't think that's what it's about. At the end of the day, you're navigating these internal fears that you've had for a very long time. But I'm not joking. Like, so, I went out, I did my thing, right? I had some fun by myself. And, you go to bed and that's when it starts to hit you, right? You're in that bed alone. You get that feeling in your stomach. You're like, fuck, this sucks, So my technique is your exhales need to be longer than your inhales. What I've noticed is that when I'm in fight or flight or whenever I'm triggered, that it's hard for me to exhale for a long period of time. Next time that you're triggered, pay attention to your breath. What you'll find is that it's very, to me, and maybe it's just me, but I doubt it, that breathing out is not easy. Because you know what it is? You're stuck up in your chest. Shortness of breath. And that's the hard part, right? When you're in fight or flight, shortness of breath, what's happening? You're having these feelings. You're not really in your body. You're really in your head, right? You're overthinking, right? And that's the overthinking. Oh my God, why did I say that? Am I a pussy, right? Like, do I need to do something different next time? Maybe I should have suggested next week. Oh, maybe I should have did this. It's not about that stuff. What I need to do right now is get into my body. So what I do is I try my best to, I try to do, my time range is about 4 seconds in, 7 seconds out, about double out. Also, too, quick caveat. When you're working out, same vibe, right? Most people, when they're working out, they don't realize how important the negative motion is, right? Let's say on a bench press, press up 1 second, down 1, 2, 1 second, 1, 2. The exhale of the movement, I've realized, of the body is just as important, if not more important, than the actual push. You see what I'm saying? The negative movements. I don't know why I brought all that up, but just for your sake, if you want to get more jacked, I guess, and emotionally jacked, we're doing it. So that's what I had to do is, like, honestly, I'm in my bed, right? Like I'm overthinking. I could feel the shortness of breath. I'm slowing down. I'm bringing the awareness more to my body, right? My awareness is more just on like the sensations in my body. Where's that heaviness? It's in my stomach. All right, feel that heaviness. My body's feeling heavy. You know, I'm in the fucking fetal position holding a pillow and just sitting there like, damn, this shit sucks. But you know what's crazy is, like, you're thinking it's about them, but really you are in survival. You are in fear. You are triggered. The situation outside of yourself is triggering you. And how much of a superpower would it be for you to be able to regulate yourself in any moments of fear or anxiety? Because what's the alternative for most people? Most people are not able to sense when they're stuck in overthinking or anxiety or whatever it is, or maybe they do, but they don't know how to handle it. So the problem is you're in your head. What did my head tell me? What was my head telling me? Oh, double down. Maybe send another text and be like, hey, like, what the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? What are you doing? Right? Now, again, remember, situationally, I have to respect her. I have to respect that she could be stressed. I have to respect her space. I have to respect the situation. But I also have to respect myself. And I also have to respect what it is that I feel and I value. So let's regulate first, and then let's talk about what could happen in the future. So I'm in my bed, right? Same thing, breathing. Calming, getting into the belly, getting into the stomach, just feeling. And instead of thinking, you know what I was doing? I swear to God, I was just repeating this. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. If thoughts came up, I'm safe. If thought come up, I'm safe. You don't realize it's not about them. It's not even about the situation. It's your body and your soul and your mind and your heart's lack of safety in that moment. When if you were to look outside of the situation, let's say you were, your head was against the window and you were looking at Chris and this other individual and you were watching a TV and they were just like live streaming this whole interaction, you'd probably say like, okay, Chris just barely knows this person. Like, he needs to chill. And for her, it's like, wow, okay, like, maybe she's really stressed and she needs to regulate herself, but she could probably do a better job of communicating to Chris. And I guess my point is sometimes you're so in yourself and so deep into the situation, you can't see it from a bigger lens. Because like I said, in that moment, the action for me is not to do more. It's not for me to take this lack of internal regulation because I feel like I'm getting ghosted. It feels like I'm waiting. It feels like my expectations are getting shattered. Those are my expectations. She doesn't owe me that. You get what I'm saying? So regulate, right? Regulate. And what was able to happen, right? I'm saying that to myself. I'm getting my breathing. Yo, it was so weird. I shit you not. Just after like 2 minutes of doing that, bro, I was like, I got this like weird sense of calm. I swear to God. I was like, oh, okay. I feel a little bit lighter right now. Like the overthinking kind of subsided a little bit, you know? And then it was like dripping thoughts, kind of like a coffee pot. It was kind of like, instead of just like, oh my God, what did I do? This, that, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? It was more like, okay, you know, she didn't answer. It's disappointing. If it's meant to be, it will be. And I fell asleep. You know, woke up, same thing, no text, but it was weird. I kind of felt just more at peace in my body. I felt, all right, cool. Like, yeah, I can't control that. And honestly, you know, when I wake up, it was weird. I had this like random feeling of inspiration towards my own life. I was like, you know what? I was like, I got worksheets to work on. I have a podcast today. You know, when I really take a step back at the end of the day, I told you guys, like, I really do enjoy my life. I really do have so many wonderful things that are happening for me. And I remind myself of this at the end of the day too. It's all about alignment. It's not about survival. I don't want a relationship decision to be made off of survival, right? I don't want to chase somebody when they're dysregulating me a bunch, right? Like that, why am I going to do that? Why would I chase somebody that's not reciprocating energy? What's the point of that relationship? I'm signing up for dysregulation then. And usually most people are doing that because they can't regulate themselves. They don't regulate themselves. And what they're doing is they're using that other person's attention to regulate themselves. Because you're not getting to the root of what your fear is, right? For me, what is my fear underneath that's being triggered? Because it's a fear about self. It's not a fear about them. It's a fear about self. For me, my fear is what? Sometimes I fear being insignificant. Sometimes I fear abandonment. I fear neglect because neglect makes me feel unimportant. But the way I realize is this, right? Now, if I was to go in direct opposition of my fears, and how do we do that, right? We got to ask ourselves, if Chris felt important, if Chris wasn't scared of neglect, if Chris felt like enough, if Chris wasn't afraid of abandonment, how would he show up in this situation? If somebody wasn't showing up, you'd let them go. I wouldn't cling on. I wouldn't try harder. I'm not going to do more. And I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be grounded. Because guess what? Even if she reaches back out to me, I'm not going to be angry. I don't need to tell her off or call her a piece of shit. The thing is, I don't even know, because there's so many there's an unlimited amounts of ways that the situation can go, right? She can never hit me up ever again. Cool, right? That's life. I got to own that. She could hit me up and apologize. She could hit me up and just act like nothing happened. So many different things. And so what I have to trust is that in that moment, I could speak my truth. And so what is my truth in this current moment? My truth in this current moment is, number one, it's okay that you are stressed, but it's not okay in the ways that you are communicating that. And so if she was to reach out to me, right, that's what I would have to communicate. Hey, like, I understand you're stressed or you want to do another time, but that communication doesn't work for me. If you're feeling some type of way, I could hold that. It's okay. If you need to do next week or you couldn't do the next day either, it doesn't matter to me. I could handle that. But the other thing too is most people are usually scared that the other person can't handle that information. You know what I mean? A lot of people aren't used to dating super secure individuals. They're really not. So most of the assumption for a lot of the people that are dating is that everybody is trying to fuck everybody over or everybody's a liar. And I understand that because I got trauma too. But we got to rise above that. And what I've realized is that when I trust myself in these moments, especially when I handle my trigger moments and I don't destroy the situation, get angry at the situation, I honor my feelings, I regulate myself, I find calm, I find peace, I remind myself that I'm good enough, I get back into my vibration, right? I see that my expectations in the situation could have been a little bit intense, so I take a step back, I give the situation what it needs, which is space. Good things happen. And I'm not saying that me and this person are aligned, right? Because to me, there's already a mismatch in some sense. But also, we haven't spent that time together. And I don't know her. And she doesn't know me. And so I got to leave room for error. So I said, relationships are interesting, man. They really are. They're complicated. They're complicated for that reason, right? Our own expectations, our own fears, that person's fears, that person's present moment. What are they going through? Are they being real? Are they not being real? But at the end of the day, too, it is about vibes, right? It is about energy. And the reality is energetically right now, I'm not feeling somebody is reciprocating. So at a base level, I got to honor that. And I got to learn something from the situation. What I took away from the situation is a couple things about myself. I realized that when I get excited about somebody very early on, and I do, because I don't know, sometimes I meet a girl, I'm like, oh my God, I can hang out with her. And what if this is the girl, right? What if she's the one? And we all go through this. I know we do, right? When you find somebody that's really attractive, that you're excited about, it's not easy to not have your imagination run wild on the situation. Right? And people feel it. They do feel it. You don't think that they feel it. She feels it. She felt it from me, right? I'm being very available. I'm being very upfront. And there's nothing wrong with that either, right? There's nothing wrong with what either are doing. I don't want to make a judgment on that. You see what I'm saying? But it's about understanding how can I also regulate my excitement in those moments as well, right? I meet a new girl. I think she's cool. I think she's cute. But the reality is I don't know anything about her. Take my time, right? Nice and slow. If she needs more space, give her space, right? If I'm seeing a little bit of hesitancy, honor it. Don't keep going full force. Give it a beat. Give it a second. And that's what I realized about dating in general, right? And for me personally, when I meet somebody very attractive, somebody that you're really interested in, and I do believe that the right person, there is going to be that alignment and it is going to flow nice and natural, right? At the end of the day, I think this girl would have shown up. But again, it also is possible that she is stressed, But to my point is we really need to go slow. We really need to create that space. And we create that space by self-regulation. That's what it is. If I could regulate myself more in my triggers, I could let things be. But it doesn't mean I don't have boundaries. That's what I'm trying to say, right? It's just because I'm regulating myself doesn't mean that what I feel is important doesn't matter. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is early on, you have to take into account their side, their perception, honor them as if they're being honest and if they're being real, give them the benefit of the doubt until that doubt is broken. Until they really show you signs energetically nah. And then at that point, if they come back, then you need to communicate, yo, you're cool and I would love to see you, but communicating like that doesn't work for me. So if you're willing to, if you're saying it's going to be different, let's talk about it. But if not, then let's just keep it moving. We don't need to do that. And that's already a very, suspect sign for me. Somebody that's a little inconsistent in their words and in their vibe. But again, I don't want to make a judgment, right? So, and here's the other thing about regulation, right? So I'm going to tell you guys a story about a client that I had this week. And it's interesting, right? Because right now she is having these like triggered days and moments in which she's missing her ex situationship, who, you know, again, it wasn't the right guy, but she had a lot of fun with and whatever. And right now she's single, she's on her own, she's got nobody to talk to. And what's happening is her being alone is triggering the fuck out of her. Just being alone. So what I asked her is, I'm like, why are we having these feelings about this guy? Let's break it down, right? What is it that your body is missing from this person? So me and her are on this call. And she's like, I don't know, Chris. I just feel like, I don't know. We had so much fun together, right? Like, I don't know. Like, it kind of just feels like when I'm alone, I'm just bored. And she was also then getting into, I'm like, okay, but like, what is it really that you miss about this situation? She's like, yeah, I don't know. It was just fun. It just felt like connection. Like, I miss the connection. I think that's a lot of what it is. I said, like, how do you feel like when you are around this person? What feeling are you missing? And she was like, I don't know. It just felt like easy. It just felt like fun. Like I just felt calm. I felt free to be myself. And I was like, okay. I was like, tell me how you feel when you're alone. She's like, Chris, I can't sit down. She's like, I'm just like a tornado. When I'm home alone and I've got nobody, like, it's very hard for me to like just be by myself and to relax. She's like, I can't even watch a fucking Netflix show. And so what we started to recognize is that, and so I asked her, you know, what's her deepest fear, right? When she is triggered, what is she scared of? And her deepest fear is that she's going to be alone. She's actually scared to be comfortable alone because she fears that if she's comfortable alone, that she's going to end up alone. It's crazy. So that's what's crazy, is that she doesn't realize, but her inner world is controlling what is happening in her relationships, right? And everything in her world, honestly, right? So this belief that she's afraid to be alone because she wants a relationship. Why does she want a relationship? Because she's scared to be alone, right? She's just happier when she's in a relationship. She's scared to not have that. But the truth is this, what that really means is, and I asked her this question, I was like, are you able to watch Netflix and relax when you're talking to somebody? Like when you have somebody's attention, what does your life feel like? And she's like, yeah, I would say like a little bit more calm. Like, you know, she's like, obviously I'm stressed a little bit about the situation, but for my own self, there's a little bit more calm. So what she just admitted to me out loud, what she didn't even realize, and we got to in this situation, was that she uses relationships as a way to regulate herself. Think about the way that she described hanging out with that guy, her situationship. It's not just the fact of he was such an amazing guy and they were so aligned, right? Because he didn't want commitment. There were so many things that were not aligned in that relationship besides the fact that it was fun and it was easy and it was chill. But really what she's saying is, I'm so uncomfortable being by myself that my body is craving this person's attention and energy because it regulates her nervous system. Because what's getting happen? What's the fear? The fear is that she's afraid to be alone. And she's afraid to be comfortable being alone because then she feels she's going to be alone forever. So her body is literally set up to be in fight or flight when she is not around a guy or doesn't have a guy in her life. And I said to her, I was like, have you ever dated somebody in which you had to regulate them? And she's like, oh yeah, she's like my ex. I was like, how did that feel? She's like, that didn't feel great. That didn't feel good. Because that's a lot of what it is, right? It's like our own fears are what's driving the relationship, right? So for her ex in particular, that's what she said. She was like, it just felt like he didn't have a life for himself and it was all on me. right? It could be overwhelming to another human when your regulation comes out as needing them. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I was trying to tell her about loving without detachment. That's what we need to be able to do. And same thing in even my situation, right? It's the same exact thing, right? If I'm afraid that this situation is not going to happen, if it doesn't happen right now, am I leading with love or am I leading with fear? I'm leading with fear that if I don't make this happen, if I don't take her on the date, if I don't show up a certain way, that she's not going to like me. Instead of just being me and trusting that even if she doesn't show up on the time that I want, or it doesn't go at the pace that I want, that I could still be grounded. So for her, it's crazy. And this is the work. The work for her is to overcome the fear of being alone. How do we do that? We learn to regulate when we are alone. I was like, imagine if your life felt calm, fun, peaceful. Like she was saying with the guy, right? Like, yeah, it just like, it was fun. We like did things together. Like it was easy. It was just like chill. I was like, why can't your life be like that now? Why does it require somebody else to do those things to feel that way? I mean, how could you even set boundaries in that situation? And that's what's happening to her. Why do you think she's in numerous situationships in a row? Because underneath, she's kind of codependent, right? She can't set boundaries on what she wants because why? Because she's dysregulated when she's alone. The same thing for me, right? This girl is showing up. She's kind of frantic. She's being a little stressed and she probably needs a beat. But internally for me, I don't want to not get the damn date, right? Like inside, I'm like, I need to, like, all right, I need to just make it happen. I'm getting much better, right? Like I gave her an alternate plan. I didn't do too much. Chris back in the day, like maybe I'll send some fucking voice notes. I'll be wild. But there's this dysregulation of wanting this to happen as soon as I want it to happen. Right? Waiting triggers Chris. So Chris doesn't want to wait. So what does he do? His fear gets projected onto the situation. Chris doesn't wait. Okay, let's do Thursday. Let's do the next day, actually. Right now. Oh, you're a little stressed? Haha. All right, let's do tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? How we could all get a little bit better at understanding ourselves, understanding our fears, understanding our triggers, regulating, and creating more secure relationships. Again, it's not even about me and the girl working out. It's about me saying, oh shit, nugget, lesson. Oh, this is great. I could take this for my next situation. All right, let's say I meet another girl that I think is really cute, right? Because I don't know the next girl either. She's not my wife yet. I don't know her. So what Chris needs to, what he can learn from this situation, that's what I'm saying, blessing in disguise. Even if this girl ghosts me, it doesn't even matter. Because I'm actually thankful and grateful for this trigger experience because it taught me something about myself, that I still fear waiting, that I still fear neglect. And for me to be in a relationship, and the relationship that I want with the girl that I want, I have to overcome that fear of neglect. I have to overcome that fear of waiting. Chris has to learn patience. You see what I'm saying? I love it. I love it. So for me, it's regulating myself in times in which I'm waiting. For my client, it's regulating herself in times that she is alone, right? Regulating herself when, you know, the person that she cares about tells her no, or that she recognizes, oh shit, there's something here that I don't like. If she could say, oh shit, you know what? I'm comfortable being on my own. I love my life alone. I regulate myself alone. I feel calm. I feel happy. I feel peace. Is she going to give up that calm, that happiness, that peace for somebody that doesn't align for her? No. But you know what's also crazy about her fear is that she feels that she's not going to be in a relationship if she's happy alone. That's a wild. I was like, I love you, but to me, but it makes sense, right? Because she's so rooted in this deep rooted fear that she needs to have somebody. It's this need. But the problem with that is this such strong, deep codependency too. And we can't operate from that place because you're never going to find an aligned relationship because you can't set boundaries. You can't tell somebody no, right? Somebody pulls away from you a little bit and now you're not yourself anymore because you're dysregulated, right? When she's on her own, she's not even herself. That's crazy. You know, she has to overcome that fear, right? Because it's from when we were kids, like for my client in particular, right? Like she was left alone a lot. She doesn't want to feel that way, but I'm like, the key to actually relationships for you is allowing yourself to overcome that fear. Same thing for me, that waiting shit. I got to overcome that. I got to realize that a lot of my expectations and how quick I want things to go is sometimes rooted in that fear. So I hope what you guys took from this is this, right? Inconsistencies in relationships. If you're feeling triggered, understand why you're being triggered. Understand your feeling, understand the belief, right? Get underneath. Then in the moment, regulate yourself. What do we talk about? Longer exhales than inhales. Remind yourself that you're safe. Get in your body. Get out of the thinking. Once you're able to do that and you get to a place of calm, then ask yourself, if I was to go in opposition of my fear, what would I do in this situation? Because again, for each person, it looks different, right? My client, it looks different than me. For you, it looks different than me. Now, we all can relate to probably some of these fears, right? Some of us relate more with my client. Some people relate more to me. Some people relate more to other people. But again, it's about understanding your feelings, regulating yourself, showing up secure. And again, it doesn't mean you always get the result that you want, but I am going to get the result that I want, right? What is the result that you ultimately want, right? Sometimes we don't take a step back. What is the result that we truly want underneath? Most people, it's we want love. And the other thing is what we want peace. Now, what do we feel like a relationship's going to bring us in the first place? Peace, happiness, shared experience, connection. The reality is, if I trust myself to be important and to navigate neglect and navigate waiting, what will happen eventually, right? Again, it doesn't mean I get this girl, right? This girl might fall off the face of the earth. She might go away, gone. But because I stayed regulated and I didn't chase her, I let her go. What does that leave room for? The right girl to enter. The girl that's regulated. The girl that's not frantic. The girl that also has the same values that I do. And also a slower pace. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm going to get to my goal of an aligned relationship if I can build that self-security. Understanding my feelings, regulating myself, you name it. All right, where are we at? Okay, I'm going to do one quick situation. I know I had those questions from last week, but I'm just going to do a situation first because whatever. Fuck you guys. All right. So this girl reached out. She's like, I hope you're having a great day. Definitely. I'm reaching out to see if you can discuss limerence and how to move on from it and maybe work romances too. Long story short, I got involved with a coworker I know. And the day of our second date, he messaged me basically saying he likes me, but isn't ready for commitment. Okay. So he threw you in the, all right, this, maybe not for me category. I made a mistake and we agreed to keep it casual. Boom. Okay. So he admits that he doesn't want something that you want. Right? This is where that self-regulation comes in. I can guarantee you that him saying that, triggered what fear that you might have about yourself? Could be a fear that you're not enough. Could be a fear that you're not supposed to be chosen. Could be you see what I'm saying? It automatically triggers that fear. You then feel inferior. And what do? Because you're dysregulated, you're like, okay, well, I need your attention anyways, because your attention is what soothes my fear. I don't soothe my own fear. You soothe my fear. So the mistake that she says she makes is we agreed to keep it casual. Again, you will agree to things that you don't want to and not have boundaries if you don't trust yourself, if you don't know how to regulate yourself. I caught feelings and he said things that made me feel like he also liked me a lot and could come around. So now she's living in the fantasy, right? She's in this fantasy that he's going to, just by being around him, that eventually she'll be chosen. Classic. I think he is still hung up on his ex, and he has said that they still keep tabs on each other and send each other TikToks, right? Remember, what she didn't do is get outside of herself, right? She's saying to me what this guy is, but she's not looking at the situation for what it is, right? She's not allowing herself to get into reality. Reality is what? Separate them from each other. He is a guy that said, hey, I don't want commitment, and apparently has mentioned his ex and being in love with his ex. Does that look like a person that is ready for what you want? No, right? If we were to look at him for what he is outside of you, we would have noticed that, but we're not creating that separation. Okay, a month ago, he ended things saying, I deserve somebody who wants the same things as me, and then I'm amazing. Okay, so he owned it. You know the drill. I'm finding it hard to move on. And when I see him walk by, hear him talk, and know he's here every day, we are cordial, but it's not the same. I have so much anxiety whenever he walks by me or I see him. If you see this, thank you so much, and I appreciate you. So what's happening, right? She is seeing, and she is getting triggered when she sees the person that did not choose her, which is what? Triggering survival. Right? Triggering, this person didn't choose you. What is it going to trigger? Some sort of fear inside of you that's saying, you're not good enough. You're not enough. Look at that. He didn't choose you. And it's hard because, on top of that, at work, it is triggering, right? That's like, right? You know how like in my situation, I got triggered because I was ghosted. I would continue to trigger myself if I kept trying to chase her, right? Because what would happen is I'd probably text her again, and I'm sure she might respond back, but then what would happen? She'd probably be inconsistent again. And all I'm doing is re-triggering myself by being in that relationship. So it is really hard when the trigger is in front of you. And this is, I guess, what's hard about work relationships is that now you have to see in front of your face your trigger every day. But honestly, if I were you, I'd be excited. And you're like, Chris, how could you be excited about this? Because guess what? This is an opportunity for you to work on your inner fears that you have about yourself. Remember, it has nothing to do with him. He is just a symbol. He is a symbol of the fears that you have inside. And when that fear, when you see the symbol in the world, the trigger happens, right? Because you have that belief about yourself underneath, something that you think is true about yourself, and then you get dysregulated. So like I said, it's about understanding that feeling, getting to that root fear, regulating yourself when he's around, and then facing the fear. Let's say the fear underneath was that you are not enough. I would assume it probably is something in that realm. If I was your coach, what I would want to help you with is, what if we believed that we were enough? What would happen when you saw him? You'd probably be like, I probably would just I wouldn't care as much, or I would just do work as normal. I would just let it go, right? I would just, let it be what it is. Let him go do his thing. True. Now, in those moments, easier said than done, right? That's where the tool of regulation comes in. The breathing. Right? Reminding yourself, I am safe. I'm safe. Breathe. Presence. Remind yourself of the belief that you need to believe. Face the fear. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're never going to feel discomfort. You're going to feel discomfort. Was it comfortable for me this last day? No, it was not. Sorry. I was uncomfortable. But you know what I patted myself on the back for? I still showed up online. Old Chris I couldn't even make a video if I was dysregulated like that. I showed up. I made a puzzle. I made a video. I had an interview. I did some work, right? I had 2 coaching calls. I still showed up for me, even in those moments. And so that's a lot of what it is too, is for you, it's show up for yourself. You got to build that muscle that you are good enough. Same thing for me. I got to build that muscle that I can be patient, that I am worthy as I am, that I am looking for alignment. that I believe that what I want is actually out there, because it is. And when you have that deep self-belief in yourself, yes, these moments might knock you down a little bit. I might get knocked down a little bit. Don't get me wrong. Right? I can get dysregulated. But I bounce back. And I don't lose my momentum on myself. I don't let the outside world destroy my inner. I feel that hurt, right? When you're vulnerable, guess what? You're soft. You're exposed. That's part of vulnerability. You're going to take a lump. Think about the human body, right? If I'm fucking running, there's a risk. What if I fall down and I land on a rock? What's going to happen? I'm going to go, ow. And I'm going to have a bruise, right? Because it's going to hurt for the moment. But we're fucking resilient. Think about our bodies. They bounce back. That bruise eventually goes away. You keep it rolling. And what do? You strength train. You eat healthy. You eat right. You feel good. You lock in. And you keep on this path of understanding yourself deeper, understanding your experience deeper, regulating, overcoming that fear. And I promise you, and I know this for a fact, for you and for me, I know I'm going to find an aligned relationship because I trust in the work that I'm doing. I trust in myself. I trust in my security. I trust in you. Whatever you want to find in your life, it is possible. It is on the other side of you overcoming those internal beliefs and fears. All right. I hope you learned a lot from this. I love you guys. And if you ever want to work with me, you know where to find me. And also check out the Substack. I've been writing a lot more on there. So go peep, different avenues. But yeah, I love you guys a lot. Seriously. You mean the world to me. All right. Let me not be too much. All right. I gotta slow down, Chris. Okay. Got it. All right. Bye-bye.